Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business and sell more with less effort thanks to the Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/redcircle, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/redcircle now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/redcircle.
Want to earn some quick cash? Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston is stocking up on cute and cozy fall styles. We pay you on the spot for your gently used name brand clothes and accessories. Plus, while you're here, you can stock up on must-have looks for autumn. We're the go-to sustainable shopping spot for teens and young adults. So stop by Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston today and refresh your wardrobe. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Second and Saints, a post-game show.
Hey,
it's exciting.
We did
right?
it. We made it.
We did it. We have arrived. Not really, but John Hendricks alongside Ross Jackson on the Superdome field. Obviously, you guys are tuned in to check out our coverage of the Panthers and Saints game. They did play the Panthers, right? It wasn't a Division III school or anything.
There was someone here. I'm not sure I would call it an NFL team, but they were here.
Yeah, I guess that's just kind of jumping right into it. You know, it's kind of hard to put a gauge on this one, I guess, in some aspects. Because, like, look, all the things that we saw in the offseason, training camp, all this other stuff, we saw evidence of that offense today. And the defense played extremely well. Special teams did their thing. Like, when I wrote about it and we talked about it on the preview, this was a harmonious performance. Like, this is literally what I was talking about. Like, when they can play this way, this is what happens for this team. But again, I don't want to say it's fool's gold and not to rain on anybody's parade, because you scored 47 points in this one. You beat down an NFC South opponent. So you got a nice little dub, but your take on this?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it is a game against an inferior opponent. There's no doubt about that. But you know what? I think the thing that stood out to me was what New Orleans did right more than what Carolina did wrong. I think we got a real opportunity to see what this new New Orleans Saints offensive system looks like, the uses of motion, play action, the outside zone run. It was all there as promised and as advertised. I thought Derek Carr did a really good job orchestrating everything. And then I think the third piece beyond like the system and the execution is always what the individual performance. And I think we saw a lot of players. Alontae Taylor, first ever defensive back for the New Orleans Saints with 3 sacks in a game, a punch out and recovery by Taysom Hill, a diving interception by Will Harris. These are all individual efforts that led to impact moments for the New Orleans Saints. So for me, that's my positive takeaway around it. I'm not worried about what Carolina is or isn't. I'm not worried about, what Carolina didn't do. I'm worried about what the Saints did. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was seeing them perform up to a standard that they kind of created for themselves more than their opponent.
Yeah, you put Taysom on defense.
Yeah,
it was tiring.
Oh, did I say Taysom? My bad. My bad. Tyrann Mathieu.
He's been doing all these shows and stuff. He bounces from one thing and another. It all runs together. But look, Taysom did have a really good job, a good game too. I just think that you look at the offensive line; they did what they were supposed to. I mean, Derek Carr didn't really have much pressure. I mean, we've kind of hit it and talked about this all offseason. Like, if you've been paying attention, like, we've been dropping hints that this is what it's supposed to look like. And again, I agree with you. I think it's more about what the Saints did versus what the Panthers didn't necessarily, because, again, this still got some really good pieces on there. But, I mean, Rashid Shaheed burning J.C. Horn for a touchdown, like, that's not just happening, right? You have to have success in the trenches. They have a talented, front seven, if you will. I mean, they play a 3-4, which is a little bit different. But, we didn't really talk about Trevor Penning. I didn't notice much about him. The only time I saw him was, like, he had, like, one little slip on the Camaro screen. Like, he just went, whoop, and all that other thing. But, like, I feel like it was very clean game for the most part. Like, again, the biggest thing was all three of the phases were in sync. And the fact is, there's still room to grow. But for me, it's about what they do next week.
Yeah.
Like this was as consistent as I've seen this team in a long time. Now, of course, they closed out like last year on a high note, beating Atlanta.
Yep.
But, this year, first time since 2009 that they put up this amount of points, and they put up 45 against the Lions when they played them. So I know people are like, oh, Super Bowl, but come on, let's slow down, right? Let's slow down, walk it back a little bit. But again, for me, is this the real team? Because we've seen in the past that they can beat up on these inferior teams, but when it comes to the harder opponents, that's where I feel like we're going to get more of our answers.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw the Saints do this against the New England Patriots last year, right? And we were like, oh, it's all coming together. Like maybe they turned a corner, all these other things, and then they didn't really turn that corner. But I do feel like this is a little bit different. But I think that it was different in terms of proving a concept. The next 2 weeks are going to be about establishing the reality, right? And so, look, you can come out of those first 5 games 2-3 and be just fine, set up for the rest of the season in terms of your opportunities against weaker opponents and a weaker part of the schedule and all those other things, as long as you stay healthy as a team. But for me, like the thing about where New Orleans is right now is that this still felt different because it wasn't just that the Saints had done something that they couldn't do. Like last year, the Saints struggled with the same offense that they excelled with against the the New England Patriots. That to me was the fool's gold. It was like, oh, okay, the things that they struggled doing before won them this game. That was about New England being bad. This was nothing but different, new change for the New Orleans Saints, particularly over on the offensive side. And we know the defense is good. There's no surprise there. But I thought that this defense performed really, really well today. But I think that that's the thing for me that kind of gives me the silver lining coming out of it is that, they can go and drop the next 2 games. If they do, then they didn't get an opportunity to really maintain that momentum, but it doesn't mean that they're fully out of the conversation. I think what we saw today is a team that can be good. And you're going to see a lot of what we saw New Orleans implement into their offense all around the league with some of the more successful offenses. So the building blocks and the foundation and the identity for a change is there.
Yeah, I think for me, what I look at is the fact that if they go into Dallas next week and then they just kind of come out limping out of the gate and then have to play from behind, that's the type of stuff that I'm talking about. Now, if they play them 4 quarters all the way and then end up losing, I don't think that takes away from what happened this week. I think that's my biggest thing is in the past, this team has shown inconsistency in that one where they'll have this good week and then the next week they just come out slow. They slop and all this other stuff. And so, look, I think that's just kind of the telling point. But sticking to the game, and obviously there's a lot of performances to call out too. I think the run game obviously is the first one. Alvin Kamara. It was Jamal Williams. Look, he got in the end zone. I mean, look, this is a guy who works extremely hard. Some people thought he wasn't going to be on the roster, all this other stuff. I thought he was playing pretty well, getting Taysom in the running game. I mean, it all worked. Like you got your best players involved and such. And of course, we got to talk about Derek Carr. I mean, he looked good. He looked comfortable. I mean, I don't see anything. There was one that he might have, he just missed Shaheed on that last one where he had it to the end zone. It was better play by the Panthers secondary, but I thought he looked comfortable. I thought he looked poised. He had everything that going for him, but run game, Derek Carr, the offensive line play, Rashid Shaheed. I mean, all the tight ends catching all the touchdowns and stuff like Juwan Foster. I mean, everything looked good, but Kamara probably still to show. Derek Carr maybe a close second for me.
Yeah, 50th career game for Alvin Kamara, over 100 plus scrimmage yards. He got an ovation here from the home audience. It was really cool. He talked about how much he loved the city and all that kind of stuff after the game. It was great, man. And yeah, I think like if I look at where I would probably shout out on the offensive side, I think for me it's kind of all about the sequencing. And so I guess that comes down to Clint Kubiak more than anybody else. But the execution and the orchestration by Derek Carr absolutely deserves its thing. 3 passing touchdowns. It took him until week 9. It took the Saints until week 9 to find that kind of success in the passing game last year. Did it on only 200 yards. So you can't even have the empty passing yard conversation critique that a lot of people like to throw out there about Derek Carr. He did it efficiently. 19 at 23 on the way to this one too. But I thought that the other thing that I loved was, look, we came in, sat down, game starts. Not that quickly, but the game gets started. And the first play is a run play to the right side, 9 yards, Taysom Hill on the split zone release, snap during the motion, not just motion, but snap, but motion at the snap, which has an entirely different impact on an offense. And then Alvin Kamara runs for 9 yards, and then they come back, and then it's 1 yard. So what do? They line up Taysom at tailback, and then they run it. I mean, just immediately showing you that they're a different team right off the bat. And then 3 plays later, you get the big 59-yard bomb from Derek Carr to Rashid Shaheed that Rashid said he was a little bit nervous about for a second. He thought maybe he wasn't going to get to it, but he ended up getting to it and then stumbling into the end zone and crossing the goal line. I mean, that set the precedent for the rest of this game.
Yeah, I think it was Clint Kubiak, and I was amazed at hearing from the players like Alvin and Derek Carr talking about like even the notion of Clint Kubiak not being on the sideline.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Alvin was kind of like, man, I barely saw him, because he's kind of like incognito and stuff, but he was able to bounce ideas off of him. Derek Carr was able to have him out there, and Andrew Janako. I mean, we've been talking about this coaching staff so much, this offensive coaching staff, and just the biggest thing that we've hit on is the fact that they said it's like one voice. It's not mixed messaging. Yeah. It's not the tight end coach tells you this, the receivers coach tells you this. It's all funneled down to be one consistent message. And then sometimes simplistic is better, in some aspects. And look, you can run the football. And I think going into this game, Dennis Allen said that running the football was going to be their best friend. And I mean, that was pretty fair. And, especially with Trevor Penning and pass protection kind of being like maybe a question mark, that they got him some confidence early. They ran some stuff to his side. They ran it to Taliese Fuanga's side. I mean, he looked comfortable as well. I mean, he was actually saying something afterwards that his heart was kind of pounding a little bit after the first several plays, but he kind of settled in, obviously. But, offense, man, they did an extremely good job in this game. But I really do like the fact that Derek Carr pointed out the defense. Like, he was so quick to point out that the defense gave us what they needed. Like, they didn't have to start drives at the 20. They were able to give them short fields and all that. And again, it's just a recipe for success.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say too that like defense giving them the short fields, but also defense giving them extra possessions. And when you're in a new offense and you're in a new situation, the thing that's going to help you get comfortable with that offense in that new situation, reps. And so they kept giving them the ball back. You got a couple of different takeaways. You got the block punt by Jawan Johnson. We saw Taysom almost block one earlier, and we were like, yeah okay, he'll get one eventually this season. And then Jawan Johnson ends up with a block punt. And there's something about the NFC South opponents. They're always blocking punts against NFC South opponents.
Steve Gleason was in house.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so I don't know. I think that like the other kind of piece to it was the ability to be able to remain consistent because the defense kept putting the ball back in their hands, getting off the field on third downs. Carolina only 1 of 10 on third downs in this game. And then you add to that the takeaways. And that just allows your offense to be able to get in the rhythm. And boy, were they in rhythm. 9 straight touchdown scoring drives, or excuse me, 9 straight scoring drives, not touchdowns. My apologies. That would have been crazy. But 9 straight scoring drives, including, this is what I was trying to say, including an opening drive touchdown, which I'll have to dig back. I'll have to dig back to see how long it took for them to get there last year, but it definitely wasn't game 1.
Late in the season. I remember that. So yeah, you're right. I mean, that was the icing on the cake is 9 straight drives where they have scoring. And again, I even looked last year in the Falcons game because they put up all those points and they started their first series as a punt, and then they had a couple of things here and there, but it just wasn't as where it was like today. I mean, I can't remember a game where they've done that. Maybe it was like, again, off the top of my head, when they beat down the Colts when Drew was like a long time ago, was 62-7. I don't know. It's something like that, or the Cowboys and they played in 49-13 or something when not that Monday night game. But again, the bottom line is the offense looked good. It looked comfortable. And again, we just want to know, that's the question. Is this the Jekyll and Hyde team, or have they turned a corner? And I don't know that even if they were to beat the Cowboys, did you say, okay, this team has arrived because you got Philly right behind them. But if you can beat one of those teams in the next 2 weeks, I'm more inclined to believe that this is actually the team. And then, of course, we're not saying Super Bowl or anything like that. I know people like jumping to the gun and stuff, because I even tweeted out, I was like, I will not get excited about the Saints in week 1, like the Bart Simpson style. And I mean, again, it's just like we knew that this team should win, right? And it was just one of those where I think it took a village. They put in all the hard work in training camp. I know some people don't really believe when we write or talk about these guys about in training camp of the work they actually do. They want to see it. And once they see the preseason, they kind of formulate some opinions. But I don't say that I'm shocked that they came out with this type of performance. I just wasn't expecting to put up 40 plus points.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like I kind of come from a different perspective because I did not expect them to look this clean. I thought they were going to come out stumbling out of the gate in the first couple of possessions. It would have been understandable. It would have been perfectly understandable because of the fact that it's a new system. And Derek Carr was talking the other day in the locker room about how like he's got so many offenses in his head and everything like that and everything. But it just looked like he's been in this offense his entire career. And maybe this offense is just closer to the John Gruden offense that he excelled in over with the Raiders. But it didn't look like he had a lot of stuff going on in his head other than this playbook. And so I thought that it went well. And look, I think too, that the other thing that probably helps out is California, right?
Yeah.
Being there, being in that,
we talked about that.
Yep. Being in that playbook all the time, studying with one another, being in the film rooms and sessions and stuff like that. Like, I think that ends up moving the needle for them too.
Yeah, it is interesting because I remember the last press conference with Dennis Allen. I actually asked, like, what was the difference between Derek? Like, what was his progression from last year to this year? And just more of a comfort level. And it's not just the football stuff. It's all the family stuff that he got settled and all these other things. And so, again, we're not going to sit here and make excuses for him or anything like that. But I just think from year 1 to 2, we've talked about, like, the rookies that make the second year leap, but Carr was one of those players we pointed out that is just as important, like a Colin Saunders or Nathan Shepard, guys who are here in their second year, and you're seeing a little bit of fruit from that. And so I really like seeing that.
Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business and sell more with less effort thanks to the Shopify magic, your AI-powered all-star. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/redcircle, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/redcircle now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/redcircle.
Hey, y'all, Darius Rucker here. A lot of people ask me, what inspires your music? And one of the big things is a strong sense of place. That's why I love my home state of South Carolina and want to share the awesome things it has to offer. From the beautiful mountains down to the sunny coast, it's got it all. Not to mention 2 of my personal favorites, great golf and amazing food. Come see why I love this place. Visit discoverSouthCarolina.com.
Wasn't without blemish today in the sense of couple of injuries to worry about. So Lucas Patrick left with a toe injury, did not return, didn't see him in the locker room. Landon Young stepped in for him. So that's one that we're really going to end up having to watch out for. I mean, Landon Young, again, we've kind of talked and hyped him up, I guess you say, is the next James Hurst, if you will. Yeah. And so he's ready. I think they didn't have really much drop off or anything when he entered the game, but Nick Saldivari was a guy that was running with the first team. I don't know what the condition is, but it's something we pay attention to. Foster Moreau's injury was really scary looking, the way he was trying to get up, but he was in the locker room afterward. He looked good. He seemed like everything's just fine. But again, if it's concussion related, there is a protocol that they have to follow. So we'll see how that kind of goes. And then defensively, because we want to hit on the defense because they played exceptional. You brought up the 1 of 10 and that 199 yards that they allowed today. But Marshawn Lattimore hamstring injury, seems like he's okay. He talked to the media afterwards. It's just not a big deal. I mean, that's a big deal in the sense that he doesn't typically, and that's no shot at Marshawn, but like he was willing to talk and all this other stuff. So that's good. Willie Gay Jr. is probably the one I'm worried about more because he left the field. He was coming in here questionable as it was for the back injury, but he left the field towards the end. So something to watch out for, but I think they can weather some of these injuries. They probably get some more of these players back. But look, the defense, they got some pressure after Bryce Young. Alontae Taylor looked outstanding. They blew up the run game, getting the turnovers. I mean, there were some balls that Bryce Young shouldn't have thrown, but at the same time, Chase Young was one of the guys that was responsible for that turnover. He forced a throw early. He made some plays and stuff. So I was really excited to see what the defense was going to bring to the table, and I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, no, not at all. And they brought so much energy to the table too. I mean, Will Harris Jr., who we mentioned, he might start next Tyrann Mathieu, and then he ends up with the interception on the opening drive. I think that same play you're talking about where Chase Young forced was that the same one where Chase Young got the pressure? And that was one of those plays to where, like, look, you can an opposing quarterback can overthrow a football all he wants. You have to be opportunistic. You have to go and make that play. Will Harris makes a diving interception in the middle of the field to be able to take that one away. Excellent to see that. But I loved watching him. I asked Alontae Taylor about him after the game. I asked him, is Will Harris always that vocal, or was he just like particularly amped up for this game? And then Alontae was like, no, he's always like that. Because he was talking about like communicating. Remember, that was the big thing that everybody was selling around the Jonathan Abram, Tyrann Mathieu kind of pairing and everything. And then so we were a little bit surprised when Jonathan Abram was moved on from and then brought back onto the practice squad. He's still here. But then, you see Will Harris go out there and have that very similar communication method coming from a very similar system in Detroit. I mean, it all just kind of like meshes. I thought that he was one of those guys that I was really close to giving him dog of the day today, but I had to go with Alante. I mean, 3 sacks in a game. He leads the NFL in sacks right now as a defensive back.
It's crazy. First defensive back for the Saints to actually get 3 sacks. That's just incredible. And he didn't know. I mean, he had to be told and stuff. And I mean, it's just, but it also speaks to what I think is satisfying or rewarding is the fact of the guys that have worked from the off season to this point, how we've seen it come together and then kind of seeing it come to fruition. Like Alante, again, we told you he was kind of a different player early on in the process. Of course, if you've been following us, like and subscribe. If not, because we've been talking about Alante Taylor for a while, but again, seeing his confidence radiate, Dennis Allen giving him a lot of praise for what he's been able to do. But man, just not only that, but he had some really good moments in coverage too. Broke up a pass play in the end zone. He did a lot of good things that Alante Taylor should be known for, right? And so really embraced his role, getting 3 sacks. DeMario picked up another sack. It was kind of like one of those getting close. That was a weird sequence where they punched the ball out in the end zone, and then they were saying one thing, nobody knew what was going on, but giving up the 1 touchdown and a field goal. I mean, 10 points, I'll take that any day. But look, I thought overall I was happy with seeing what the pressure was building. Linebacker play looked really good to me, and in the secondary, look, even when Marshawn went out, Kool-Aid McKinstry looked pretty comfortable. And we kind of talked about that, is that even Tyrann kind of saying it early in the offseason that at some point he's going to be counted on. He got thrown into fire really quickly. Yeah,
very fast. And this is part of the thing, right? This is the war of attrition that is the NFL. You're always going to have players leave with injury. Now, you don't typically have 4 starters leave in a single game and everything. So that's unique. But to be able to have Foster Moreau go off, and then you've got Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill who can continue to contribute. When you have a Lucas Patrick come off, and then you have a Landon Young that can plug in, that has a lot of experience with this offense and in this system. When you have Marshawn Lattimore go off, and then you can plug in a Kool-Aid McKinstry, the 2nd-round rookie, and still hold a high level of standard on your defense, that's huge. And that's the stuff that used to win the Saints games back in 2017 and 2018. I'm not trying to draw too much of a comparison between the two because they deserve it to stay separated. But, those are the things that ended up making such a big difference, was them being able to overcome those bits. And sometimes you overcome that because of the talent of the players. Other times you overcome it because of the scheme. Other times you overcome it because of the help of other players, whatever. As long as you can overcome it, you overcome it. And that's one of the things that used to win them games back then. And it helped them win. Well, I think the game was pretty well set, but they won today despite those injuries.
Sure. Yeah. And of course it's good. It's good to kick off this momentum. I mean, they had that winning streak coming into it. They hadn't lost a opener since 2018. And so they had the streak that kept going and such. But again, focus attention, like every player even said it too. Like, we're going to enjoy this one. We're not getting too high. This Allen's kind of like, let's keep it even kill, if you will. And let's get ready for Dallas. And I mean, I think that's the exact mood to have, is that, I don't think the club dub wasn't too crazy. It was nice, but it wasn't like over the top excessive. But I think the team just kind of has an idea of what this game was. They took care of business, got out with a win, came in relatively healthy, and now it's time to focus on the next one. You mentioned Juwan Johnson's punt block, but we got to mention Blake Grupe.
Oh my goodness!
He had some 50 bombs, some 40-yard kicks. I mean, he was 4-4 today, and for a guy who, I mean, it was an intense training camp battle with Charlie Smith, and Charlie Smith just came up a little short. That, injury towards the end might have hurt him a little bit more, but he's still in the practice squad. He's still here. But, Blake Grupe, the confidence that they have in him and the confidence that he was able to show, I mean, he didn't miss any extra points, made all 4 of his field goals. If he doesn't make any of them, then it's still a win. But, again, taking advantage of those drives in position, good confidence builder for him.
Yeah, tied his career long as well with that 57-yard field goal at the early point in the game. It was funny because we were watching that, and then we saw them go out there and attempt that field goal, and I thought that was an aggressive move. I think last year's New Orleans Saints would have punted that.
Yeah.
I really, really do. And so they had gone out there already showing that they were aggressive. They get the interception, they come back, and then they end up kicking that 57-yard field goal. Here's my additional shout-out. We spoke about Alvin Kamara, but for me, Alvin Kamara did not get a contract at the beginning of this season, right? Walks into week 1 with no contract extension, didn't get the new deal done, stuff like that. And he still comes out here. He performs, has a heck of a game in the process, ran for over 80 yards, and got into the end zone. And I think, so you saw him saying basically, hey, contract didn't get done, but I'm going to still show up and I'm going to play. Yeah. And one of the things that he told us during training camp was, I'm not mad at the team.
Yeah.
The contract negotiations ain't got nothing to do with the coaches, ain't got nothing to do with the players. So why would I hold them accountable for any of that kind of stuff? Why would I impact them for any of that kind of stuff? And then you saw it reciprocated. He gets the rushing touchdown that gets called back, and Clint Kubiak just keeps feeding him and feeding him and feeding him for any of my Wu-Tang fans out there. But that was a pull. But just keeps feeding him until he finally gets into the end zone. He said that meant a lot to him to kind of have that moment. So I thought that was a pretty cool thing to see too. One of those things that plays over and happens over the course of a game that doesn't usually like see the light of day, but really good stuff there.
Yeah, and he said the whole entire plan was for him to show up. Like, it was never a question that he was going to hold out or do anything like that. He just wants to play ball. And I mean, again, we, at the possibility of Alvin Kamara in this offense, I mean, we've kind of hyped him up a good bit, right? And today was a proof that, you know, he can really be a factor. But when you were averaging, at one point he was averaging, I think, 7.7 yards a run, and he had like 7 carries or something crazy like that. I mean, it was just really good to see Alvin get back. And we were curious to see, because I know everybody talks about the Christian McCaffrey, you know, comparisons, all this stuff. He can be Christian McCaffrey in this offense, which is fair, but I think you saw a glimpse of what that could be. But he doesn't have to shoulder the load alone, right? He has Taysom and Jamal Williams getting. That's the best thing for him, is the fact that you can get some extra, you know, help there. And of course, it helps when you have good blocking. I thought low key, Adam Prentice did a pretty good job too as a blocker in here. I know we don't talk about fullbacks, or I mean, we do sometimes, but you know, I mean, people are going to look at the fullback as long as special teams as well. But you know, again, I think it was a pretty solid effort all around. But man, I guess if I had to say your game ball, I think you might go Kamara, but who would you give your game ball to?
I would
give out 2.
2. Do they have to be players?
No.
Because my first one I was thinking about was Clint Kubiak.
Sure, yeah.
And then I'm torn between Derek Carr and Alontae Taylor, because I think both of them deserve it. But I'll go Clint Kubiak and Derek Carr. Like, they were the ones that had the most to prove coming out here in this game for different reasons. Like Clint Kubiak, nobody was doubting him or anything. That just nobody knew, you know. And so I think those guys came in with maybe the most pressure, not the most to prove. That was the wrong way to say it. I'm sorry. The most pressure. Sure. And I thought that they cashed in on that. Yeah.
I think for me, you know, Alvin's probably the easy, low hanging fruit. I definitely think Alontae deserves one, for sure. And then as far as other ones, so I'm torn on him and Rashid, because I think Rashid, he almost had a punt return for a touchdown, but Rashid Shaheed opening up this offense, like, you see the results of being able to set up the run and the play action and stuff. And the Rashid Shaheed's just so exciting and such. But I might have to split the game ball, but I think it's probably a toss up. But I guess I'll just go with Alvin, because Alvin was kind of the main focal point here, and he was able to, like you said, just keep getting the ball one after another. And so I thought he looked good. There's still the times where he's running on the side, and it doesn't even look like he's going full speed, but he's doing his thing.
It's crazy how smooth he is still. And that's the thing, like you were talking earlier. I'm glad that you said that, because that means I get to come back to this.
Sure. Great.
Great. I think that, like, the big thing that you mentioned about Christian McCaffrey, right? About, he could be Christian McCaffrey in this offense. I just wanted to be Alvin Kamara again. Sure. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, the Alvin Kamara again. And he looks so much like that today. Yeah. Like, there were so many people asking, like, does he still have the explosion? Does he still have the elusiveness? All that. Yes. You know what I mean? I think you saw it. I think you definitely saw it here today. So I thought that was a big one. You know, I think Rashid Shaheed was feeling himself today, so and rightfully so. Yeah. So we'll give him, like, we'll give him
the bonus game ball. He needs to get one.
Yeah, a little bonus game. You know how I know he's feeling himself? He came out in that post game and he kept them glasses on. I was like, oh, snap.
Yeah, all business, right? No, he's feeling himself. So
I love it.
Yeah, it was really good. So Saints start off 1-0. They've got the big test next week. A little surprised at Atlanta today. They lost 18-10. 10 points with Kirk Cousins at the helm. I think we had some concerns about that. Of course, we're not going to base it off of 1 week, but really disappointing if you're a Falcons fan. But the Saints get an early division win. That's good for them. We'll see where Tampa kind of falls there. But, you know, again, this is a marathon, not a sprint, right? So There's a lot of things that are going to be coming down the pipeline. We're going to be talking plenty about, next week. But for now, savor the win over the Panthers. And then we'll look at some film. And, of course, there are some corrections Dennis Allen had to make and such. But, Ross, what's coming up for you at Locked On and LouisianaSports.net? And if you're not following that, be sure you go do that.
I'll mention real quick, too, penalties.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of penalties.
That's, of course, the thing.
Yeah, a lot of penalties for this team. So that'll probably be one of those big things that they'll need to clean up. I got a lot of stuff coming up. So I'm going to go through. I'm going to do like a by the numbers breakdown of like, here are the important numbers that you need to know from this game. We'll take that. We'll turn it into a podcast in the morning, do a little bit of a deeper dive as well. I'll go through and do my film study for insiders. I'll take some notes from that and everything too. So it's just about taking a deeper look, both from the analytics perspective and from the film perspective of what this game was, what it means, and what it could be moving forward. What you got coming up?
Yeah, of course, I put out my post-game column on Saints News Network, so it's kind of just talks about some of the things that have reinforced that, look, we know what this game was. Now let's look at Dallas. Like, this is the litmus test. This is the barometer, the temperature, the gauge, whatever euphemism you want to use. That's what applies to me, right? And, of course, enjoy this one. Like, this is a good one. It's a good start for this particular, I don't want to say regime, but this particular team, the 2024 Saints. But of course, we'll have snap counts, all that we're going to look at, and then we're going to look at film breakdowns. We've talked about doing that as well. Maybe a show, but we'll see, because NFL is kind of iffy on some of their digital material, but plenty more to talk about in this game. And then we'll get into Dallas mode, and then hopefully you don't have a storm that hits in the middle of all that, which could throw them a wrench in some things. But other than that, guys, we absolutely appreciate all your support and tuning into our post-game show. We'll have plenty more on Second and Saints. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, check the links, support the show. A lot of cool things happening, and it's not possible without this guy. So I can't thank him enough for doing all the work he does and then some for us. But on behalf of Ross Jackson, John Hendricks signing out for another episode of Second and Saints. We'll talk at you soon.
Love you. Love you. Love you. Love you. Bye.
Hey, y'all, Darius Rucker here. A lot of people ask me, what inspires your music? And one of the big things is a strong sense of place. That's why I love my home state of South Carolina and want to share the awesome things it has to offer. From the beautiful mountains down to the sunny coast, it's got it all. Not to mention two of my personal favorites, great golf and amazing food. Come see why I love this place. Visit discoversouthcarolina.com.